darling, I really do think the red drains you. Dark egg is much more the thing. I can alter the waist and tinker with the length. Clarissa wore it in Twelfth Night in 98, I think it was. Then that insipid girl, Fiona thingy, wore it last year as Lady Macduff. I filled in a neckline and added the panels, but it never looked good on her. Nothing ever looked good on her. And then, at the dress, Robbie said it was too much. And I remade it so her tits showed and she could flash her ankles. God, those tits. Kept me busy for many a show. I'll put some shoes out for you, darling. Did you find them? Gold heels that Helen wore for Pygmalion. Horrid girl. Completely without talent. Huh. Do you remember the emerald green she wore for the ball scene in Windermere? I had to let it out twice. And put in the scarlet panels from the Gertrude dress that Emma wore on the tour. Elsinore. You know, darling, I was in Denmark for the championships. For the practice heats. That's when I met my dear Norwegian Torvald, who swept me off my skates into the marriage bed. Not really a very good idea. Though I still love him dearly. We were quite the couple that year. 1974. He partnered me in the Friendlies, first in Copenhagen, then later in Oslo and Bergen. We really turned heads, and we were the favourites in the world of figure skating. Of course, it was silly to marry him, and I think we both realised that even as we were doing it. God, I was only 18. Still, we're the best of friends, and we keep in touch. Oh, I know what they say. Dolly's frocks always fall to pieces. They're right. So they do. I call it built-in obsolescence. One of a play, a wedding. They don't need to be very well made. They just need to be good for the occasion. And then it's unstitch, undo, remake, redo. Let in, let out, curtains to frocks, frocks to waistcoats. Remake, recycle, but never throw away. No, darling, I think you're doing absolutely the right thing. It's much better at this end of life than the other. God, darling, I was far too young and silly. You're a wise old fool, and he's, what, well, only 15 years younger? I think you'll make each other very happy. And I think the duck egg's just the thing for the registry office too. On second thoughts, I think the silver heels will be better. I'll look out the ones that Fenella wore for Beatrice. Did you see Leo's article? Very good, I thought. Though I didn't understand half of it. It was about the hard times for the theatre and how sad it was, but it didn't really matter. But it does matter. For poor Billy especially. Leo. Gallimorphy. Well, I'd seen it written, but I'd never heard it said, let alone used it. But whatever spin we put on it, life seems to have been diminished somehow, and the outlook is not good. I had getting him into his satin waistcoat for his Malvolio. Oh God, he was ballooning. But he seems happy enough now with dear Ben, despite the demise of Gallimorphy. Yes, after our whirlwind romance and marriage, things between Torvald and me took an immediate plunge. And he said he wanted babies and it seemed I couldn't have them. And then, well, whatever spark there might have been fizzled out the moment we hung up our skates. God, how beautiful he was on the ice. But, strictly entre nous, how wooden and plodding he was off it. Trouble with me is I've always been too much a realist. I could never give in to illusion. So why on earth did I do it? Well, for a few hours, a few days, I did see it as a way into the future. Being married to this beautiful man, living on a fjord, wearing lovely woolens, and living an outdoor life in a beautiful country. Oh, we used to go all over, you know. Not just the cold northern countries had ice skating championships. Some of the most unexpected places as well. Saudi, Lebanon, Israel, and Portugal, of course. Oh, they really were fun times. But I wouldn't want them back, really. Oh, yes, darling. Be with you in a sec. Oh, well. Nothing much to do now except making quilts and getting people out for weddings. Oh, by the way, I've done the silver braid on Carlos's jacket. It looks lovely. But to be honest, I do miss it terribly. I just used to love being in the dressing room while the show was running. Yes, I know actors can be a pain, but I've always enjoyed being with them. I know you always had problems with just being a stage manager. You wanted to act, to be on stage. I never did. Quite apart from having none of the talent necessary to pretend to be somebody else. I really did feel I'd had my time in the limelight, thank you very much. That was quite enough. The Winter Olympics, 1984, Yugoslavia, which has also bitten the dust. Torvald and Dean were extraordinary, of course, and deserved every ounce of their golds. But I knew that my best days were behind me by then. Oh, I don't know, somehow the spirit had rather left me. Oh, no, darling. I don't regret a single second. Not a second. And the memories are still as vivid as if they were yesterday. I'm really very happy, darling. Can't tell you how much I still enjoy the Gallimorphy of life. I probably used the word completely wrong.
All right, love. Oh, and I really like this orange one. Thought it suited me. Oh, well. Actually, Dolly's wrong, you know. People always think you end up as a stage manager just because you can't make it as an actor. But honestly, I never wanted to be an actor. I just wanted to observe what it was like and find out why there were such pains in the arses. I suppose I might have wondered if I could have done it, pretended to be someone else. Quite honestly, I don't think there's that much to it. Aren't we all pretending to be someone else most of the time? I know I am. Kids have been on at me for ages to give up this theatre lark and spend more time at home. What a ghastly thought. And now we all have to. Bloody hell. Might as well make the most of my last moments of freedom. Ta-da! God, perhaps not. It was great when I was younger. Really great. I loved being in the theatre. Just being in the building and seeing all those people rushing about, practicing their crafts. Well or badly, as the case might be. Mostly not very well in some of the dumps I ended up in. Carlos is a treasure. Manna from heaven. It's a wonder things have worked out so brilliantly. I've never had much luck with men. They've always been cold bastards or beaters or boozers, like the father of my twins. I've had much better luck with women. I've sometimes wondered whether I shouldn't have become a lesbian. They seem to have much more fun. However, I have this weakness for men and a passionate nature, so they say. My other marriage was in a proper church. His family insisted. I was never at all religious, and he wasn't either, really. Oh, and I had to say yes to that ghastly dress with the lace and train and silly veil. He was outraged when I took it to Oxfam when we got back from our disastrous honeymoon in Florida. Marriage didn't last much longer. However, he did have time to impregnate me before he buggered off. I've never looked good or felt happy in green. So I expect there'll be a tussle with Dolly and she'll win and I'll trip obediently up the aisle. Feeling happy, I hope. Dolly's wonderfully sure of herself. She makes me feel like a dithering wreck. And it's funny because in the theatre, I am in control. I mean, I love organising people and things, and I'm bloody good at it too. It's just in the personal sphere, I've always been a bit lost, lacking in confidence, tossed around on the winds of fate. And the booze didn't help, of course. Dolly seems to really like Carlos and seems genuinely pleased for me. She once told me that she'd been briefly married in the distant past. Far as I know, no offspring ensued. I can't help wondering about the marvellousness of Carlos. Is he too good to be true? To be straight? But he is. I know. And he's had other women in the past, and I'm not a bit resentful or jealous or anything. But not much. Lord Leo and his bloody gallimuffry. I looked it up. It's a sort of French stew with varied different kinds of meats. My life. But I'm pleased for Leo. Funny to think of Ben as middle-aged. He was such a lovely, bright, clever boy. Leo took him to Cabo Verde last year. He'd never been. I always thought Ben could do anything. I thought of him on Thursdays when we clapped for the NHS. Clapped, bloody hell. It's a miracle that Carlos turned up in my life. It's nothing like being loved and cherished like this. And I admit that since the twins upped and went, the theatre's become increasingly important for me. And yes, I'll miss it. But there's been incredibly tough times in my life. And I know sometimes I've been stupid and irresponsible. I think the theatre and AA have kept me on an even keel. And whatever I did in the past, the girls have forgiven me for it. And they've carved out their own lives and seem quite happy, really. Which is an achievement in itself, given their inauspicious beginnings. Guess where we're going for our honeymoon? No, not bloody Florida. Not Saint-Tropez or Cancun. We're going to Cabo Verde. As far as I know, Carlos hasn't got any aged relatives to meet up with. 10 days on the Isle of Sal with my man. Bliss. I suppose it'll have to be the bloody duck egg and the silver bloody heels.
Well, it was nice to be invited, but amazingly I'm full up. With a ballet school, private Zoom concerts, and a couple of pared-down weddings. I actually have more work now than I did before all this happened. Not very lucrative, it's true, but it does keep the wolf from the door and fills up my days. I think what I miss most, besides the theatre, are the tap classes. Pierre says he's going to start again, but can't afford an accompanist for so few students. Darling, I want to tell him, I'll do it for nothing. I did tap myself in another life. Danced, I mean. They said I was good. And I even did the few shows. I featured Sailor Boy in Anything Goes. Yes, chorus, but how I loved it. However, it turned out to be a fragile thing, that part of my life, and soon died. Not many people know that I wrote a musical myself about 100 years ago. Beware the Carefree Heart. I did the whole lot. Score, book, stage directions, everything. For 3 months, I was in a fever of excitement about my brilliance, and I'm afraid my day job rather fell by the way, and people thought I was ill. Over the next 3 months, doubts crept in about the capacity of Gracie Fields for attracting huge audiences in the days of cabaret, chorus line, hair. Although my show was meant to be ironic, I think. After 6 months, I became very unhappy and lost faith in the whole thing. And I confined Beware to the back of a gloomy drawer, where it still languishes as far as I know. It was good in a way to have that flash of realization that I wasn't really a creative artist. After a depressing and gloomy period, well, I started enjoying my bread and butter job as an accompanist again. And I have to say that sliver of enjoyment has continued to this day. My carefree heart, broken so many times. Mostly by shits, it's true, but not always. Nigel, Nick, Bjorn, Abdul, they were good. As for the rest of them, well, I consign them to hell if I believe in such an absurdity. Leo? Oh, I still love Leo, though we were never lovers in the proper sense. We still keep in touch, and I know he wrote that article about the death of the theatre and his gallimaufry, or whatever he calls it. Well, I'm just so glad that he's happy. It is so awful about Billy. He was the best of us in many ways. He had so little, he learned so much, and he worked so well. And he's the one that they deem dispensable. I wonder if I can still do it. Well, darling, let's see. Black bottom shirt, got on with it. System with it. Tristan just moved on. Back you got the right. Da-da-ba-dum. Oh, no, darling. I'll stick with tickling the ivories. Oh. I'm off to the north tomorrow. Amazingly, first time I've been out of town for nearly a year. A dance academy requires my services. Oh, Dolly stepped in and is going to look after my darling canine and real love, Gloria. Take her for walkies. Oh, how wonderful Dolly is. Well, not just because of looking after Gloria, but because she is wonderful. She has nothing really. No money, no family, no animals. Yet there she is, facing the advancing years like a trooper and telling everyone else to fuck off. Gloria has been my savior, really. She takes me out into the world and out of myself. You know, it's an odd thing. Very odd, really. In spite of everything, the absolutely terrible state of the world, ignorance, stupidity, getting old, the virus, of course. Well, I think that I'm happier and I feel more fulfilled than I've ever been in my life. Well, when you consider how tough things were for me in my younger days, it's not surprising that things are getting better for us, for Gloria, for me, and the old upright in my bedroom. No, not him, Ducky, the piano, silly. Here's a confession. Although I spend my working life honking out tunes from the shows and romantic classics, do you know what I play in the old upright in my bedroom? For myself and the furniture? Bach and Scarlatti. It clears my head. And I do think that that is my chief joy in life. Well, besides glory, of course. The Neapolitan Redhead, Sonata in D major. Let's go.
It was my second lady that got me this job. Oh, lovely lady. But they all are. My first lady was lovely too. There's so much to do here. Clean and safe. Clean and safe. That's what we have to do now. Clean and safe. I've been here for 2 years. And it's ever so much more hygienic now. It's a pity there are no people to see it. Well, 1 or 2 of the actors, rehearsing sometimes. And the people like me that kept their jobs after they kicked everyone out. My first lady, she always said, Idalina, they will never let you go. And here I am. Keeping everything hygienic, more than ever. I knew nothing about plays and all that stuff. But my second lady, she gave me tickets for the theatre. Before they closed everything down. Me and Mario. It was lovely. It was so nice. I didn't understand all the words, but the story was beautiful and they'd done it so nice. Pity about the lady losing her marbles and all the murders, but lovely clothes. Mario loved it. Especially when the trees started moving and they done a bit of fighting. Dolly done all the clothes. And so beautiful what she done. Old-fashioned, but beautiful colours and lovely styles. I always loved clothes. My mum and grandma used to pick the plants and make the linen when I was little. And the cloth was used for the rancho folclórico. Little blue flowers. Every summer, we done a show in town for the festas. I was 16 when I come here. I've been back a few times, but this is home now. I met Mario here. And he's done even better than I have. He's a driver for the government. Yes, he really is. He drives that Dominic, what's his name, wherever. Right little shit, Mario says. My second lady wants me to go back to school. And I say to her, bit past that, Christabel. Christabel, that's my second lady's name, and that's what I call her. A lovely name. And she's named after a woman who was fighting for women's rights 100 years ago. And Christabel, she comes from a very poor family. And now she works for the posh newspapers. She's a critic, a theatre critic. I say to Christabel, what'll I do at school? And she says, you can do anything, Idalina. And she gives me a leaflet. Oh, and it's true. History, law, ballroom dancing, dressmaking, cake decoration, watercolours, computers, Greek for beginners, car maintenance, anything. So I get thinking, and why not? And Mario on nights. So what to do? I already know how to do dressmaking. I don't bake cakes, so nothing to decorate. I haven't got a car. So I've decided, and I've enrolled in Ballroom for Beginners twice a week with Mr. Pellegrini. He looks lovely on the leaflet with his curly hair and his beautiful smile. But I've always loved dancing, and they wear such beautiful clothes on Strictly. So I've enrolled in ballroom dancing for beginners. Mario's working nights this week with the little shit. So I've got some time for myself. And Dolly, she gave me some beautiful green material. And she also found me some beautiful ballroom dancing shoes that fit me perfectly. When I left home, the street was empty, except for the man with the ponytail, staying by the bar with his phone for company. I was the only one on the bus. Back home, they say it's just the same. Everything on hold. Empty buses, no tourists. I might as well be here. And Mario's got his contract with the little shit. Oh, that's gorgeous. Oh, it's lovely. Ooh, oh, my head. Ah. Clean and safe. We have to keep everything clean and safe.
I'm so pleased that Leo invited me to do it, although I'm not at all sure how it's going to pan out. The theatre's closed. They're talking about doing a live stream or even a Zoom performance. So I suspect my designs will be pretty much redundant. I mean, who wants a pink Beaux-Arts drawing room with French windows in times of crisis? Well, me for one. I suppose there must be some others out there. You know, it's funny. When I was at art school, it was all this abstract architectural stuff. Grey infinities and interesting levels. Echoes of Gordon Craig. I think I was quite good at it. But now, call me a reactionary if you will. It's really just personal taste. I'm much happier with a nice period room with wallpaper, or a bosky glade with leaf borders. I can still do all the other stuff. To be honest, I just really like patterns and a bit of furniture. Oh, I know. Should have been doing this job 80 years ago. Born out of my time. But of course, Leo's right. The theatre's died 1,000 deaths, and this is just the latest one. We'll see what arises from the ashes. don't think somehow it'll be a theatre that requires box sets and leaf borders, but you never know. Yes, everyone here knows about me and Freddie, except Dominic. Now, how on earth did I end up married to him? I've got nothing in common, really. But he was quite cute and very manly when I first met him, I suppose. But he's been becoming less and less so both ever since. I was never a bit interested in his politics, though not particularly against them at the time. He's changed. And I really think that over the past 4 years, since the referendum, he's become both more entrenched and more defensive. While me, on the other hand, and not just because of Freddie, but I've moved in the other direction. Partly because of what's happened to friends and colleagues in theatre and music, but not only. Oh, it was mad to give up that freedom of movement and the rest of it. Mad, criminal and stupid. In a few years, these will be seen as the golden age. These years when we could work and study all over Europe with no restrictions. And I'm sorry, but I just can't forgive Dominic for going along with it. I've given up arguing with him. To be honest, I think the reason he gets so frustrated is because he doesn't really believe in it himself. I don't think Dominic's a particularly stupid man, but he's weak. He's surrounded by pretty dim people, and in the end, his personal ambition trumped his good sense. Cabinet position constantly dangled if he keeps the faith. Of course, Freddie despises him utterly. Oh, I know I need to make a clean break. Freddie doesn't say much, but I know he'd like me to. And not just for revenge on a political enemy, but because he really cares for me. For some reason, though I owe Dominic nothing and despise him for what he's complicit in doing to the country, I just simply can't do it to him. It really would be the worst thing, me leaving him publicly for someone like Freddie. It's not because I'm soft-hearted, I'm not. It's more that I just can't bear to upset things. Dolly thinks it's ridiculous me soldiering on like this. Heard that she was married once, long time ago. So here we are. Rather old-fashioned situation. Rather like the old-fashioned sets I aspire to. Not for me, striding up the modernist Ibsonian mountain to misted valleys and snowy peaks to enlightenment. But no, rather stuck in the drawing room rearranging the furniture and suggesting new patterns for the wallpaper. Just ran into Billy on the stairs. He's been sacked. Such a nice man. And so important to the theatre. How could they do that to him? I know it's stupid, but I do blame fucking Dominic and his buddies. The virus wasn't their fault, of course, but it seems to me that when it comes down to it, they're all nasty little shits who are only interested in their own survival. They'll tell any amount of lies to ensure that people like Billy are simply disposable. And here am I, the wife of an aspiring cabinet minister with no political affiliations, a decorative job in the theatre and not much of an axe to grind, sounding off like a loony lefty. Oh. Fuck it. I've decided. I'll leave him and let him stew. Time to rearrange the patterns. Sorry, darling.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, it's not the first time I've been kicked off a job. Looks like Leo was right this time about the death of theatre. Well, it's not been a bad run. My first job in theatre was at the Grand Opera House in Belfast. I got picked up for the flies in a panto. What was it? Babes in the Wood, 1991. Very nice theatre. Bit creaky backstage, and it had had a couple of bombs during the Troubles, so it all felt a bit dodgy, but I was chuffed to get the job, so I was. There wasn't much else going on in Belfast at the time. And frankly, it was grand to rub shoulders with all those well-known people, you know. The celebs, as I call them. And to have a bit of fun, you know. Nice for the kiddies, nice for the old folk. Well, the set was all up, the lights were tickety-boo, we was all rehearsed and ready to go, except for the dame. What was his name? May McFartridge. Or something, yeah. Well, he'd been having a bit of trouble with, you know, that's all part of a day's work. Well, there we were, all set up. Kaboom. A bomb in the hotel next door put pay to all our hard work, and the show was cancelled just before opening night. So, curtains for my first theatre job. And back on the building site for Muggins here for a few years. God. I missed the cushy theatre number, you know. Actually, it wasn't that cushy. 14-hour days often. And that place had no electrics for the flies, so it was all hauling stuff up and down all day to amaze the punters with what they called transformations. You know the kind of thing. Dirty scullery into palace ballroom. A bit of dry ice and it's a woodland glade. Nice. In the warm. Good people. Not that people on the building site aren't good, you know, but they're always on the move. You never get a chance to get to know them, you know. With that first job on the cancelled panto, that changed everything. So, after I'd been working for a few years in England, finding work wherever I could get it, you know, Channel Tunnel, the Tube, jeez, hard graft. But the money was okay. I swung a job in Nottingham as a stagehand, told them about my experience in the Belfast Grand. Indoor work. Great, in the warm. And nice people, like really nice, you know. Oh, the digs. The digs was fantastic, better than anything I'd been used to. And to tell you the truth, it was nice to work somewhere where there was women as well, you know. Dolly was there in the first season, doing the costumes. We met up several times over the years, and she always sent me a Christmas card whenever I had an address. It was great. We became quite pals. You know, nothing more, mind, but it was grand to have a friend. Billy, she said. She always calls me Billy. Billy, she says, you're the best. Oh dear. Me? Never got married. Never had kids. As far as I know. I was never in one place long enough, you know. Always on the move, heading for where the work was. Since them Nottingham days, all my work has been in the theatre. I worked for Northern Ballet, 2 seasons on tour and a real graft. Whew. Not like these actors, jammy bastards, most of them. I mean, they're nice enough, you know, but they wouldn't know hard work if it came up and kicked them up the arse. So I picked up a bit of know-how, you know, rigging lights, bit of carpentry, that sort of thing. And I haven't been out of work in almost 20 years. And I've developed a real taste for theatre, you know. Shakespeare, panto, modern stuff, musicals. The Bard. Oh, the Shakespeare's great. Jeez, couldn't imagine myself saying that a few years ago. I left school when I was 14. Sure, I didn't learn much there anyway. No, my education came quite late, such as it is. So, here I am, thinking I'm set up till retirement. Until this comes along. We much regret that due to the pandemic, we have no alternative but to let some of our non-essential staff go. Let bloody go. Non-bloody essential. Dolly's been telling me that Leo's been sounding off again about the death of theatre. Well, here we go, boys and girls, eh? I can't even get down the bricklayers to drown me sorrow with a pint or two. It's not been a bad innings, though. And to tell you the truth, it's been a lot better than I imagined it ever would be. Back in those dark days on the construction and those bloody awful digs. With a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, and the rain, it raineth every day, the rain, it raineth every... Ha! See me? I'm even singing bloody Shakespeare. With a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, and the rain, it raineth every day. The rain, it raineth every day. With a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, it raineth every day. The rain, it raineth every day. With a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, it raineth every day. The rain, it raineth every day.
Yeah. At the beginning, they always took me for the fucking cleaner. No offence to you, Adelina. All hail to you. Not insulted, just pissed off by their assumptions. So I'd say I was from the Observer or whatever, and they'd say, Observer what? Jamaica? And I'd say, no, Observer London. So I stick that up your asses. And they'd say, what? And I'd say, so can I have access, pretty please, to your fax machine? Yeah, it was that long ago. And they'd say, of course, darling, but write nice things. And I'd say, kiss my fucking ass. Do a good show and you might get a half-decent review. I'll have a gin and tonic, please. That's when I first met Leo. We had something in common as we'd both been at the National Youth Theatre. when we'd been at different times youthful. Of course, I soon realised I wasn't meant for the limelight. But the beast had bitten and has never let go. Yeah, man, this lockdown's a bloody drag. Oh, shed a tear. No work for critics. The ultimate insult in Godot. Estragon settled on critic. Critic! Critics, they're bastards. They think they're so fucking important. They're only critics because they can't do anything fucking else. Not bloody true. I can cook well. I'm really good at doing things around the garden. Much better than Chloe, who looks pretty, but all she can do is be a doctor. Clap for the NHS. My white nan always said to me, Christabel, by giving you a name like that, your mum meant for you to go far. Nan told me Mrs. Pankhurst had been a suffragist and that she'd got us where we are today. Mrs. Pankhurst. Mrs. I don't think Nan ever envisaged me becoming a theatre critic. She had only the vaguest idea of what the theatre was, let alone a critic. But she had a fierce attachment to women's rights and to other kinds of rights that she can't have imagined when she was growing up in Bilston. And I like to think she'd be really pleased and happy about what happened to me. I had a black nan too, but I never met her, so I've no idea what she might have thought. But I'd like to think she'd be pleased too. People think, because of the way I talk, that I'm a bit of a loudmouth, that I'm careless with language. But nothing could be further from the truth. Language is sacred. That's not to say petrified, unchanging. But when language starts to decay, everything starts to go. That is when language is used to equivocate and deceive rather than to describe accurately. When people sadly die. When houses are bloody affordable. And when the shittiest dump in the world is part of the hospitality industry. And when lies are described by influential people as alternative truths. Yeah, that's when things really start to go fucking wrong. Yeah. I read Leo's little editorial. And while I think a lot of people could do without his palimpsests and his gallimaufries, he does tell some truths. It's funny. Perhaps because of my big mouth and my brash style, people think I'm confident and in control. But until very recently, that hasn't been true at all. I always felt supremely terrified of the world and haven't known how to fit in or how people really see me. I think that's why I was drawn to the theatre and why its world of pretense has become my safe place. I always felt less of an outsider, despite its being indubitably middle class and male dominated. It's remained a refuge and an inspiration. God, what bollocks I'm speaking. Do fuck off, Christabel. After the youth theatre, at the age of 18, it occurred to me that I'd never be an actor. Not because I wasn't good at pretending to be other people, but because in the end it didn't interest me very much. And also because it would have been a real fucking struggle trying to make a living by it. Still true. 30 odd years later. My white nan was a cleaner. And I've never felt insulted to be taken for the cleaner. In fact, there have been times in my life when I wish I had been a cleaner rather than a Nancy fancy theatre critic. Nan was clever and astute, but was never in a place to make cleverness a marketable commodity, despite being white. She poured all her aspirations into me, helped me through university, and gave me so much support when I first became a journalist. So now, when people take me for the cleaner, less often it's true because I spend a lot on clothes and listen to Trini, darling. I don't fly off the handle and badmouth them, but rather let them persist in their delusion and feel proud on behalf of my Nan. She died, not passed, for God's sake, 15 years ago. And though I still miss her terribly, she would have so hated this hollowed out world we find ourselves living in. Bring back the gallimaufry of life before we all die of boredom or of being careful. Thanks, Nan.
Dear Nicola, I suppose I must apologize for the salutation that I know is not in the spirit of the times. So, hi, hello, plus emoji, happy face, I suppose. I must apologize for not having got back to you ages ago about your extraordinarily generous offer that I should undertake the supreme role in your autumn season. I can't tell you how honored I feel and how sorry I am that because of the pandemic, this is not actually to come to pass. Oh, Ben, darling. Yes. Yes, she's had it. Yes. Yeah, I gave her the rest of lunch. Sorry, Nicola. Pussy intervening. Ben's looking after it. Ben is a marvel, really. Did you know that he originally thought about becoming an actor? Not entirely because of me, I hope. In fact, if my influence counted for anything, he wouldn't have touched it with a barge pole. But he was good, very good, really. He did 1 year at Central and then decided that it wasn't for him. As I think you know, his family are from the Cape Verde Islands. And I met him in Lisbon when we were doing Hamlet here, God knows when. It was during some football championships, which were our major competition. Shakespeare versus football, no competition. Anyway, Ben was in the theatre that night, serving in the backstage bar so sweetly. Apart from me, he always said he didn't like actors, and I must say I quite agree with him, though it is lovely pretending to be other people. Such a relief, really. Well, I say that now that I don't have the pressure of fighting for parts. It really is a very demeaning process. But that wasn't Ben's problem. He always said they were arrogant upper-class white twerps or something like that. I thought it had all changed. But no, apparently. Anyway, Ben seems quite happy to be away from it all and very committed to his work in the NHS, despite everything. Oh, I'm sorry, Nicola. I'm getting distracted. Thank you for thinking of me. It's wonderful to be thought of. Ben's been out all day on the Black Lives Matter demo. I do so worry about the dear boy in these terrifying times. He seems to have a magic ring around him. As do I, apparently. As do I. Still have. I'm at the theatre now, as a matter of fact. Margaret just told me that poor Billy has been sacked. Wonderful Billy. Of course, this pandemic is terrible. But it was so much worse the last time. So many of us died. Friends and enemies. And of course, my darling Danny boy. He still awakens me in the middle of the night. He seems as much alive as dead. Oh, he died over 30 years ago. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen along the mountainside. La da da dum, da 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 dee dee. Oh, he was a far brighter star in the constellation than I shall ever be. His Lysander, his Horatio, his Trofimov, of course, his Hamlet. That he never did, of course. But he was made to be the greatest of Hamlets. Pussy keeps us both sane. They're such tarts, cats. Oh, Nicola, darling. I think we've known each other long enough for you to have an inkling of what I'm feeling right now. You probably didn't read my little editorial thing about the death of theatre. Oh, the trouble I got in for using that word gallimaufry. But it is the right word, I think. The kind of controlled chaos that we all need, and that the world of theatre and performance in general had in truckloads and is now all but banished. Oh, I admit, having that part dangled before me was a sore temptation. At last. But so what? No one in the real world really gives a damn what goes on in these theatres. Despite the sadness that I feel when I look at these rows of empty seats, these darkened stages gathering dust, all these people who have to find something else to do. It's unbearable, really. It's like a terrible dream. The reality is that most stuff on these stages was an irrelevance, really. Important, but irrelevant. A dream. Is anyone there? Nothing. Nothing will come of nothing. Ah. Ha! Ben has brought me some pastéis de nata. Taste of heaven. A little celebration, perhaps. Oh, Nicola, do forgive me for running on so. But your offer is really very much appreciated. I'm only sorry for us all that it's not going to happen. But not really so much for me. I'm fine. Me, and Pussy, and Ben. As for your other suggestion, the online Zoom thingy with Ian, what was it? Chekhov's swan song. Well, I think we should go with your first instinct, and that Ian should play the actor, Vasily, and that I'll have a go at the stage manager. What's his name? Nikita? I really do find these Zoom things rather arid. But I'm sure with your direction we can make something of it, and Ian will do a great job with Vasily. Well, bye for now. Right. Back to bed and Pussy and cakes.